Welcome to Ohio October 28, 2012. I have to my left Mr. Jim Burns.
Morning.
And I have to my right Mr. Rich Stevenson. And also I'd like to thank my friends Isaiah Campbell and Kim Blasco for videotaping this debate. Mr. Shabbat was invited, but he declined to attend. And Mr. Jeff Sinard, he may be coming at any moment now. And we'll pause the debate and give him a mic and let him sit right in. Today, we're going to have our opening statements. They're going to be 3 minutes each. And for our opening statement, Mr. Stevenson won the coin toss, so he'll be starting. Mr. Stevenson.
Okay, my name is Rich Stevenson. I'm your Green Party candidate for Congress. I read a lot. I'm not really a public speaker, but I'm going to work hard on this. I want to thank Al Hardin and his friends for coming down and doing this taping. It's very much appreciate that. And I want to thank Jim Burns for actually having the idea of having the debate. But I propose two nonpartisan, independent ways to change Washington, D.C. Number one, we want to get bribery money out of political campaigns. Number two, we want to separate commercial banks, Main Street, from financial banks, Wall Street. I will start doing those two things in your Congress next January. I am ready for change. Are you? I need the support of voters who have lost confidence in the two-party Congress, over 90% nationwide. We see that they are not solving any problems. We understand that Congress is broken. I need just 4 out of every 10 votes to be your independent voice in Congress. Jeff Sinard, the Democrat, seems unsupported by his party. On election day, my name may be better known. Use your vote to change Congress. This year represents the best chance to change Congress with your vote in a very long time. Elect Rich Stevenson. We need more independent voices in government, legislators who will represent their fellow citizens, not special interests. Christopher Smitherman is a great independent voice in Cincinnati City Council. Agree or disagree, he works for the people. I can be that voice in your Congress. I am nonpartisan, dedicated to providing conscientious new leadership, not influenced by the backroom party agendas of entrenched incumbents. I am a plain-talking, active, concerned American, eager to devote full time to representing District 1. People first, for the people. In Congress, I will introduce the joint resolution needed to satisfy the Equal Political Speech Amendment that will forever remove special interest money from political campaigns. All elections will be decided entirely by voters. The amendment will end corporate personhood and the Citizens United decision. Money is not speech. Get a flyer and see my web pages, very extensive web pages. I will reenact the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933, 27 short pages with no Wall Street amendments. Glass-Steagall provided financial security for over 70 years. Wall Street lobbyists overturned the Glass-Steagall Act from 1960 to 1999. We lost the financial stability it provided. 30 seconds. Okay, just 9 years later, 2008, we had and still have the deepest recession since the Great Depression. Congress passed a bill that was a sham. It did not correct the problem of banks too big to fail. Those banks are much bigger now than ever. The chance for failure and another recession or depression still remains. It is not fixed. The two Wall Street parties will not change anything unless you make a change. Elect Stevenson to have a chance for change. Yes, we can change Washington, D.C. and Congress. I can with your help. Together we can. Okay.
All right, Mr. Burns.
Well, thank you for having me here today. I'm delighted to be able to debate my opponent. It's a shame that Mr. Sinard and Mr. Shabbat were not able to make it. I'm running for office. This is my 4th time running for United States Congress. I know the district well. I've lived in Hamilton County, Green Township, College Hill, New Burlington, all over the district for the last 64 years, and familiar with the problems that we're facing. All of us, as we drive across the county, are appalled at how many businesses are closed, how many houses have for sale signs up, how many houses are under foreclosure, and that's caused by our federal government growing way out of control. And Steve Shabbat has been part of that problem. He's voted for 2 wars that were not authorized for Congress, and he knew that those would have to be paid for with borrowed money. In my campaign, we want to dramatically reduce the size and cost of government. We also want to have a non-interventionist foreign policy. We should not be in Afghanistan or Iraq. Steve knew those wars were going to have to be paid for with borrowed money, and that is what really has negatively affected the defense and security of our country, is by running up a huge debt. So now how are we going to pay for the military we need to protect our country when Steve's already wasted that on 2 wars that are basically unwinnable? Those countries are going to be disasters when we leave, and all we've done is spent treasure in the lives of our dear soldiers, men and women, who've sacrificed so much to be over there. So during my campaign, I've talked about those issues, and as your congressman, I will dramatically reduce the size and cost of government. We need a balanced budget now in 2013, not at some future unknown date like the Democrats and Republicans would do. That's it.
Great. Well, the first question goes to Mr. Stevenson, and the question is, do you believe that corporations should have constitutional rights and that campaign spending is exercising free speech under the Constitution? And what would you do in Congress to further your position?
Well, I do not believe that corporations should have constitutional rights, and I do not believe that money is speech. In fact, that's one of my main campaign issues, is to introduce a constitutional amendment into Congress in next January. I've already written the bill that needs to be introduced in the form that it needs to be introduced in Congress, and that I would do, and that's basically to do a constitutional amendment to do away with corporate personhood and do away with money as speech. That would take money totally out of campaigns. Also would have it so that only voters could give money to campaigns or do in-kind contributions to campaigns. So the only money in any election, whether it's on a state level or local level or national level, would be from people who are entitled to vote in the election. Anybody who is not a person who can vote in the election, any legal entity, corporations, unions, nonprofits, political parties will not be able to give money to their candidates because only voters could give money to political candidates. And that's the way I would handle that. Yeah.
Do you have a 1-minute rebuttal?
1-minute rebuttal. Well, you know, I agree somewhat with Rich in that corporations and people with a lot of money seem to have an undue influence on the governmental process. Yeah. But the other thing is we as voters have to stop asking the government to fix all these things that we perceive as problems, because when you get the government involved, they're going to make the problem worse. And we got to stop believing what we see on TV. The very worst place to decide about how to vote on a candidate or issue is what you see on television ads. This last year, my good friend Tom Brinkman was lost his election because, well, one of the organizations that Rich would oppose spent $500,000 getting him defeated in the primary election. But I think that one of the main reforms has to be in our minds and our hearts, and stop voting for candidates who support big expensive governments like Steve Chabot does. Support your libertarian candidate. We always support lower taxes, less government interference.
Yeah, it's time on that. Now, a follow-up to that question. I've been watching TV and I've seen a lot of ads, and my question is, who's behind those ads? Which, of course, we don't know, but should we be able to find out who's behind those ads? Because I may want to keep my money in my pocket and not buy their products or services. What's your thoughts on that, Mr. Burns?
Well, you know, it would be, I think if I were buying an ad for myself, I would want to say that, you know, this is what I believe and that's why I'm paying for the ad. And for people to put ads out there anonymously, I think you should dramatically discount the information they're presenting to you if they're not willing to say who they are.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, actually, I think those kind of ads should be disallowed. They should not be allowed to be broadcast because they just introduce. They don't really do a lot to clarify this the issue or the positions of the candidate. They're really just propaganda which appeals to emotions. They show.
Yeah, but Rich, that's a free speech issue. You shouldn't pass a law against people expressing their opinions. If they don't identify themselves, then like I said a minute ago, I think we shouldn't take those ads seriously. But I don't think we should make a law against it.
Yeah. But I think we should probably disallow those things. If it's, I think we should disallow them actually. You know.
Are you saying you want to pass a law against free speech?
No, no.
Well, then how do you disallow them if you don't
pass a law against people? What I think we should have an equal political speech amendment, which gives only people who can vote in campaigns to be the only people who have a voice in campaigns.
Then who's going to pay for those ads?
The voters, that's it.
The voter. How do you, well, you're going to levy a tax on voters to pay for campaign ads? I don't think that's right.
We have a camera crew here today who can fully, we can put this thing on YouTube, or we can do a lot of things on the internet, and we can get all the information that's necessary out to the voters to make a decision about two candidates without having money involved in a campaign.
Well, speaking of money, gentlemen, Mr. Burns, how much money have you raised on this campaign?
Let's see, we wrote it down here, $257.37.
And yourself, Mr. Stevenson?
I would have to admit to far less than $1,000, okay?
All right, well, let's move on. This question is for you, Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Many economists believe that there's a crash coming. Do you agree? And if you do, is there a way that it can be avoided?
Well, you know, as Rich just mentioned, the YouTube and other internet resources are a wonderful source of information. And I just reviewed a YouTube video that a professional accountant with 40 years experience working with big businesses reviewed the federal budget. And we are bringing in approximately $3 trillion a year, and they're spending $4 trillion a year. That is not sustainable, and the distance between what they're bringing in and what they're spending is getting further and further apart. So it is inevitable, if we continue following what the Democrats and Republicans tell us to do, there is going to be a crash. The only way we can avoid that is I would recommend you vote for Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate for president. He's going to present a budget balance in 2013. The Democrats and Republicans were heading down this steep hill to a cliff. Obama wants to step on the gas. The Republicans want to step on the brakes gently. It's only the Libertarians that could keep us from going over the cliff.
And what are your thoughts on that, Mr.
I think unless we regulate Wall Street and financial markets, like proposed in reenacting Glass-Steagall, which is what I propose, that we will have, at some point, we will have another recession and/or depression unless we make corrections there.
Yeah, but Steve, they've regulated and regulated and regulated, and we're still in a mess. And now you're saying the answer is to create more regulations. Is that what you're saying?
No, the answer is not regulation. It's to separate commercial banks from financial banks, so that you decrease the amount of speculation in the system. The speculation is what caused the Great Recession of 2008. And that was because Congress was not exercising oversight of the people who were being too speculative. Speculation was the problem, not regulation.
Well, I disagree with that. I think competition is what protects us, and when Fifth Third Bank competes against Chase Manhattan for our business, that's where we get real protection, not by a government system where they say they have, like the federal FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. If a bank goes bust, all they do is print up more money. They don't really have insurance.
Well, I mean, so are you against any type of regulation? I mean, it appears as though, you know, during the presidential debates, they were talking about equal pay for women and equal pay, you know. So with that, and let me bring that up, with no regulation, businesses can just do what they want.
Yeah, that's a good thing. well, you know, they say this young lady, if she goes out to a company and interviews, and they're only going to pay her $7.75 an hour, she's probably going to decide, well, I'm going to go to somewhere else where they appreciate my skills and my talents, and they pay her $15 or $20 an hour. It's the competition that's the real protection for the worker, not the government regulation.
But could the businesses collude together and say, hey, for this or whatever, we only want to pay this this amount of money?
Well, that's what they do. It's like Rich says, businesses go to government, they create regulations that it favors their business and stifles competition. That's what happens. Isn't that what you see, Rich?
What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Stevens?
Actually, I think that Jim has a good point, because actually what we have in this country today is we do not have entrepreneurial free enterprise. We have a regulated system that special interests, they control everything so that you don't have the competition. If we had real competition, where we had new businesses and small businesses were created, and that's where the business came from, then that would be okay. But you need to have regulations anyway. But small business creates over 70% of the jobs in this country, and the Democrats and Republicans have long recognized that. And it's the truth, that we need to get money back into Main Street. We need to downsize Wall Street so that they do not have every legislative bill in Congress and at the state level favor Wall Street and favor international business and favor sending jobs overseas or exporting our jobs. We need to get more capital and money back to Wall.
So
back
what's
to
the
Main
next
Street,
question?
You know. So.
Well, any thoughts on that? Would you like to add anything to that?
I'm a free market guy. All kind of trade and travel back and forth. I think a lot of the people coming here to the United States, my ancestors all came from Germany, and just because Hispanic people are the latest people to arrive doesn't mean we should say, oh, wait a minute, let's change the rules now that now that we're here and they're not here yet. As far as equal pay for women, I do have to admire companies who recognize the value of the contributions that women make. If you go down here to the Procter & Gamble company, there's a tremendous balancing between men and women who work there, and they recognize the contributions that women make. And that's an area where education is important. If you want a good job, a good education is important, but do not be seduced by cheap government loans encouraging young people to go to school when at the end of the rainbow there's only a bill and not a job.
My next question goes to you, Mr. Burns. Why should Democrats and Republicans support a third-party candidate? I mean, they're so enthralled with the issues between, I guess, Democrats and the Republicans that they don't want to cease an inch to either party. So why should they go to a third party, which, of course, will weaken their stance, or they believe will weaken their stance with their party?
Well, I think the real question here is the Democrats and Republicans have been in power for over 100 years. We are in a huge mess. Why would you want to continue to vote for the two parties that are responsible for the problems we're in? I think you should take a look at the Green Party, take a look at the Libertarian Party. I'm in favor of the Libertarian Party because they don't let cell phones go off during interviews. So I'm a big supporter of the Libertarian Party because we take the best of what America was here and about: limited government, personal responsibility, low taxes, partying a little bit with legalized marijuana, and things that made America a great country. What made America a great country was not this government that micromanages every part of my life. And I think if this young man back here in the backyard next to his mom's tomato plants, he wants to grow a little weed, I think that's okay.
And what's your thoughts on that, Mr. Stevenson?
I have no comments on weed. I think that it's sort of a what irrelevant issue, but I think it probably should be legalized.
It shouldn't be an irrelevant issue when 75% of our county budget goes for 75% of our county budget goes for law enforcement and courts.
The reason that voters should consider voting for a minor party candidate, third party candidate, Green or Libertarian. Of course, I prefer the Green Party, obviously, but the reason that they should do that is because those parties will represent them, and they are not divided by issues like the Democrats and Republicans. They have their base, which is a lot of it is chosen by the gun issue, by abortion, by controversial issues. They distract people from the basic issues, basic economic issues of financial stability and other issues that that people should be more concerned about. In fact, a lot of the people are so dissatisfied with the Democratic and Republican Party that over half the people do not even bother to register to vote, who are age eligible, and half of the people who are registered don't bother. They don't bother to vote because they don't really want to support the candidates who are on the ballot, Democrat or Republican. Jill Stein said, she's running for president, she said there are going to be 90 million people in this election who do not vote because they do not support either the Democratic candidate or the Republican candidate. And she said if just 45 million of those people would actually come out and vote for a third-party candidate, then every third-party candidate would have ballot access, and that the Green Party, and specifically would have, in 2016, they would have $20 million to spend on a political campaign for president, which, and this year, the Green Party only has about $500,000. They've been doing all their campaign on that much money.
That's the time on that one.
Okay,
I have a next question. Of course, I'll give that one will be for you, Mr. Stevenson. Why does the United States alone among the advanced nations of the world not have a single-payer healthcare system? Is a for-profit insurance healthcare system such as Romney Care or Obamacare sustainable? If not, what is your solution to bring the healthcare costs under control?
Well, this is one I'm sure Jim would disagree totally, because I believe it should be a single-payer system. Every advanced country in the world has a single-payer system, and the costs are cut in half with a single-payer system. The cost, and it's just like with Medicare in this country, we should have Medicare for all, and it would cut medical costs per person in half. It would reduce costs by 30%. We would have a healthier population, which would be good for our economy. The reason that, what was the question? The reason we don't have a single-payer system is because our political process is bought by medical insurance. There are 7,800 medical insurance companies in this country. You have the pharmaceutical companies, and they give money to the political campaigns, and that's the reason we still have a for-profit system, a medical care system, which is not sustainable. It does what Obamacare and Romney Care did not reduce costs, and those systems are going to go bankrupt. It's going to crash. It's already crashing. We need to go to single payer in order to be able to sustain health care for our population, for everyone in the population, actually.
Single-payer system is a government-paid system, and where does the government get their money from? They get it from taxes. So the government's going to take our money, put it into the government, take a lot out for overhead, and then pay for the health care. That's exactly what we don't need. The government has gotten everything they've gotten into, they have totally destroyed. They're going to do this. It's another cheap idea by politicians. We're going to do all this for you, and where do they get the money from? They get it from us. And tell me this, is the government bankrupt now? Are they spending more than they're bringing in? Yes, they are. You can look at any balance sheet. They're spending about $1 trillion a year more than they're bringing in. Now they're going to promise more benefits. They have absolutely no way to pay for. You can't go to a family doctor anymore because they've made so many regulations. When I was a kid, my mom would take me to the family doctor. He operated at his house. He actually came to my home when I was a kid. That kind of health care can't be provided anymore because the government layer of regulations has been so burdensome.
Sure. How do we control costs?
Well, the only way you control costs is through competition. You cannot just regulate. If you tell doctors they're only allowed to charge so much, then they have to, they're going to stop providing that service. There's fewer and fewer people becoming doctors because the federal government is regulating what they can make, how they have to provide care, every minutiae aspect of providing care to their patients, all the paperwork they have to do. Fewer people are getting that. And in my generation, we got this huge bubble of older people coming. And believe me, you are not going to get decent health care, especially not if there's a single payer tax funded system.
Mr. Stevenson, how do we control costs?
Okay, we control costs by actually reducing costs. If you do it with a single payer system, you put everything on computers and you provide care for everyone. If you put money into preventive care, then the cost of health care goes down exponentially. Health care that provided costs a whole lot less, and you have a healthier population. Prevention is the way you save money, you reduce costs. And you can't do that with a for-profit system.
So Rich, if you don't charge people that come in the door, there's going to be a line this long because you're giving away health care. Then the only thing you can do is ration it.
For-profit systems, the for-profit system, which is insurance companies, they cannot reduce the cost. They are, right now, you have about a 9 or 10% increase each year. It's going up and up and up.
So are you against profits? Companies in America shouldn't make a profit?
Well,
what's wrong with the healthcare company making a profit?
Because it's a bankrupt system. It cannot be sustained. And we have to have health care in order to have a healthy population, in order to have people be able to participate in the financial system. We have to have health care. We have to have healthy people to participate in society.
All right, let's move on, gentlemen.
Okay, yeah.
My next question is for you, Mr. Burns.
Yes.
The Federal Reserve keeps lending money to the government. Do we blame the Fed for lending the money or Congress for authorizing spending that they can't pay for?
I think we got three people to blame. First, we should blame ourselves for asking the government to do things they should never do. They shouldn't be in health care, they shouldn't have the Food and Drug Administration, they shouldn't have the Department of Education. The children in our schools are not one iota brighter because of all these regulations that the federal government has portrayed. So so to improve these things, we get the government out of them, we reduce taxes, we increase personal responsibility, we get children going to private and religious schools, and reduce the government role in all areas.
What's your thoughts on that, Mr. Stevenson?
We keep looking to the two-party system to solve our problems with government programs because the two-party system has not really found the answers, the solutions that can solve the problems. And one of the problems, one of the answers in healthcare is to have a single-payer system, and which would it would just reduce cost. It's the only way to reduce cost. There are things that private enterprise does better, obviously, but I mean, the private enterprise does not do anything to build infrastructure. Like we have the Brent Spence Bridge needs to be replaced. The private enterprise system has not done anything. The government has been so focused on helping out the private sector that they have not done anything to put money aside to rebuild the Brent Spence Bridge. We need to, the government they fix potholes, they build bridges, they do everything on infrastructure. Government has its purpose. It has a tremendous purpose for making society function.
So you're saying the private sector, the for-profit companies, they're using a lot of the infrastructure, but do you believe they're not doing their share to help maintain that?
They absolutely are not. But if we were maintaining our infrastructure, it would have been done over the last 50 or 60 years. Right now we have so many bridges in this country that need to be rebuilt because we've had several bridges fall into the river over the last several years. And that's because of very, very inadequate maintenance.
And your thoughts on that, Mr. Burns?
Well, on the getting back to the Federal Reserve is a central bank cartel, and they collude with each other to make the regulations. And then as soon as a bank fails, they print more money instead of letting those investors and those banks suffer those losses. So be very leery anytime the government says we're going to have a government bailout. What they're doing is not having the government pay that bill, but passing it on to the taxpayers. And Rich is right that the government frequently spends money on things that make a big show, but don't take care of the basic things like keeping our bridges and highways in good repair.
Okay. Now, my next question is for you, Mr. Stevenson.
Yeah.
What needs to be done to make our educational outcomes competitive with other nations of the world? Would you do anything in Congress to make our nation more competitive?
Wow, that's a tough question. I probably agree with Jim. We don't want to have everything done in education from Washington, D.C. But the things we need to do in education is, one of the things we need to do is we need to have Head Start programs and early Head Start because brain development takes place from the age of 2 to 5 years old. And if we don't provide, if we have kids who are growing up in a bad environment where they don't get the stimulation they need for brain development, then later on they're not able to actually take advantage of education. It impedes their ability to learn. So we need Head Start and early Head Start are things that need to be done. Perhaps those are federal programs which should be increased rather than decreased. And also now there is an internet ways of improvising and new ways of doing education. There's a thing called the Khan Academy.
I think your minute is up.
Is it on?
You said 15 seconds.
All right, 15 seconds, okay. But the Khan Academy, which is something which with internet programs, and we should actually, I think that we should spend $45 billion a year to pay for all college tuition.
Your time, sir.
It's up, okay.
Your thoughts on that, Mr. Brown?
Well, consistent with my other replies, the very first thing we should do is get rid of the Department of Education. Educators are tired of having the federal government come in, have these unfunded mandates which increase the cost of providing educational services and just eats up time and paperwork. It discourages really qualified teachers from staying in the industry. So we get rid of the Department of Education, restore local control over the schools. As many parents as possibly can should send your child to a private, religious, or voluntary school. You know your child is going to be safe and have a good education if they're going to a Christian academy, a Jewish school, or a private school. And I think that's the real way. And I'm going to say again, students who are graduating from high school and looking to go to college, don't be seduced by those low-cost loans, because you're going to graduate with a big loan and no job to pay for it.
Okay. Mr. Burns, this next question is for you. You alluded earlier that you've ran for office before. Why do you keep running for office, and it appears as though you don't have a chance of winning?
Well, it's self-defense. You know, these guys, they may want to ruin this country. They may want to take my tax money without my consent. They may want to go in these foreign wars that I don't approve of. I am not going to sit here and take it. I'm going to fight back. In the United States, the way we do that is you run for office and you come to forums. Thank you for having us here today. We express our opinion and we get things changed. That's why I run for office. We got to have a balanced budget. We got to stay out of foreign wars. We have to improve education.
Okay. What the reason I run for Congress is because we have a corrupt two-party system. I want to end the culture of corruption in Washington, D.C. And there's a culture of corruption also in just about every state government. And the Democrats and Republicans are pretty much, they take too much special interest money in order to really solve the problems. So if a third party person or an independent does not get on the ballot and seek public office, and we don't elect people to public office who are not Democrats or Republicans, then we'll continue to have corruption in government for as long as they are in control.
Okay. All right. Now, gentlemen, thank you for coming to the debate, and I'm going to give you your 3-minute closings. We'll give you 2-minute closings.
I'm going to take less.
And we'll start with Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns. Well, thank you for having us here today. It's disappointed Steve Shabbat didn't think enough to be able to come here. He's worked with the Republican Party to draw a district where Steve is basically can't win this election. The Republicans, instead of being civic-minded, have drawn the boundaries around the state of Ohio to maximize the number of their candidates that'll win. And it's unfortunate that the district that we're in here is not what you would call a competitive district. So I thank you all for being here. I'm delighted. I want to recommend when you go vote to vote a straight libertarian ticket. If you want to reduce the size and cost of government and improve the economy, bring the debt under control, vote libertarian.
My turn.
Mr. Stevenson.
Okay. In closing, I'm sorry that the Democrat and Republican did not show up today. and this is not a competitive district, very true, but when I go to Congress, Congress has the option to build Main Street and to strengthen the middle class. This is one of my main things. I will introduce the bill to reenact the 1933 Glass-Steagall Act in the 113th Congress in January 2013. With that legislation in place, we will begin to fully recover from the Great Recession of 2008 and possibly avoid a double-dip recession or a depression. Vote for a stable financial system, elect Rich Stevenson to Congress in District 1, fire Wall Street and Steve Shabbat, give our local economy and our nation a chance for change. Regulation will help build a strong domestic economy based on the recovery and support of Main Street. Commissioning local and state commercial banks is one approach to building a prosperous Main Street. Had enough two-party corruption yet? Fire your 16-year incumbent. Elect Rich Stevenson, financial conservative and social moderate. End the culture of corruption in Congress and Washington, D.C. Change Washington this year. I will need the support of voters who have lost confidence in the two-party Congress. Over 90% of the people in District 1 and nationwide. We see that they are not solving any problems. We understand. Congress is broken. I need just 4 out of 10 of every 10 votes to be your independent voice in Congress. Help elect Rich Stevenson and put in a vote for Jill Stein also, so we can have a Green Party in Ohio the next time around. We can change America. Thank you.
It's a wrap.
Thanks, everyone. This has been our debate, and